The hardest moment of my life wasn't the day my wife left me. It wasn't the night she packed her suitcase, or the sound of the front door closing behind her. It was 3 years later, when she stood in front of me with tears in her eyes and quietly asked, "Were you ever afraid of losing me?" I looked at the woman I had once called my forever, the woman whose absence had changed the shape of my entire life, and I finally told her the truth I had been too proud to say when it mattered most. Always, even now. Before I tell you how we reached that moment, if stories about second chances, forgiveness, and the kind of love that survives even after everything falls apart touch your heart, please like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear it, leave a comment, and subscribe to Ripple of Kindness. Sometimes a story arrives in our lives at exactly the moment we need it, reminding us that losing someone doesn't always mean the story is over. My name is Daniel, and for 11 years, I believed I understood marriage. My wife, Emma, and I had met when we were 24. We were young, broke, ambitious, and completely certain that love could solve anything. We rented a tiny apartment with a kitchen so small that 2 people couldn't stand in it without bumping into each other. We ate instant noodles during the weeks when money was tight, celebrated birthdays with cheap cake, and dreamed about someday owning a house with a garden. Emma was the kind of person who remembered everything. She knew how I liked my coffee, which songs made me smile, and exactly when I was pretending to be fine. She could look at me for 3 seconds and know whether something was wrong. I loved that about her, but somewhere along the way, I became careless with the things I loved most. My career began improving, and with every promotion, I convinced myself I was building a better life for us. I worked late, answered emails during dinner, traveled on weekends, and missed small moments because I kept telling myself they weren't important. Emma never demanded expensive gifts or grand gestures. She only wanted my attention. But I was always tired. Whenever she asked me to put my phone away, I promised I would. Whenever she said we hadn't talked properly in weeks, I told her things would slow down soon. Whenever she looked disappointed, I kissed her forehead and said, "We'll make time." The terrible truth was that I kept postponing our life while believing I was protecting it. Then one rainy Thursday evening, Emma placed a cup of untouched tea beside me and sat across the table. There was no anger in her face. Somehow, that frightened me more than shouting would have. She told me she felt alone. I immediately became defensive. I said I was working for our future. I said she knew how demanding my job was. I said I loved her. She looked at me for a long moment and whispered that she knew I loved her, but she didn't feel loved anymore. Those words stayed with me. We tried counseling. We tried weekends away. We tried promising to start over. But promises are fragile when they arrive after years of neglect. Eventually, the arguments became quieter, the conversations shorter, and the distance between us wider. One morning, Emma told me she wanted a divorce. I thought she was bluffing. That was my biggest mistake. I signed the papers with shaking hands, pretending I was calm. When she walked away from the courthouse, I wanted to run after her, but pride held my feet to the ground. I told myself she would come back. I told myself she would realize she couldn't live without me. She didn't. The first year after our divorce was brutal. I discovered that a home could be completely silent and still feel painfully loud. Her favorite mug remained in the cupboard because I couldn't bring myself to throw it away. I found one of her hair ties beneath the couch and kept it in a drawer for months. Every grocery store reminded me of something she liked. Every rainy evening reminded me of the night she said she was lonely. But slowly, something changed in me. I stopped blaming her. I stopped blaming work. I stopped blaming circumstances. I finally blamed myself. I realized that losing Emma hadn't happened on the day she left. I had been losing her one missed dinner, one ignored conversation, one broken promise at a time. I began changing, not because I expected her to return, but because I didn't want to become that version of myself again. I learned to listen without preparing an answer. I learned that saying, "I'm busy," too many times could make someone feel like a burden. I started volunteering at a community center on weekends, helping families who were going through difficult times. For the first time in years, I stopped measuring life by achievements and started measuring it by moments. 3 years passed. Then, one autumn afternoon, I received a message from Emma. She needed help moving some boxes from her mother's storage unit. Nothing romantic. Nothing dramatic. Just a simple request. I almost said no. Instead, I went. When I saw her standing beside the old storage building, I felt something inside me break open. She looked different. Older, calmer, stronger. But when she smiled, I saw the woman who had once danced barefoot with me in our tiny kitchen. We spent the afternoon carrying boxes. We talked about ordinary things at first. Work. Friends. Life. Then she found an old photograph. It was from our first year of marriage. We were sitting on the floor of our tiny apartment, laughing over a broken table we had tried to repair ourselves. Emma stared at the picture for a long time. Then she asked the question that changed everything. "Were you ever afraid of losing me?" I could have lied. I could have said no, because I wanted to appear strong. Instead, I looked directly into her eyes. "Always," I said. "Even now." Her eyes filled with tears. I told her that I had been afraid from the beginning, but I had confused fear with security. I thought because she loved me, she would always stay. I thought a marriage survived because two people said vows once. I didn't understand that love had to be chosen every day. I told her I was sorry, not because I wanted another chance, but because she deserved an apology without conditions. Emma cried quietly. Then she admitted something I never expected. She had been afraid too. She had been afraid that if she stayed, she would spend the rest of her life begging someone she loved to notice her. For a moment, neither of us spoke. There was no magical music, no sudden promise, no perfect ending. Just two people standing among dusty boxes, finally understanding what they had been too young and too stubborn to understand years earlier. We didn't immediately get back together. Instead, we started having coffee. Then walks. Then long conversations. We learned each other again, without pretending the past hadn't happened. We talked about our mistakes instead of hiding them. We forgave slowly. We trusted carefully. Months later, Emma reached for my hand while we were sitting on a park bench. She didn't say she wanted the old marriage back. Neither did I. We decided to build something new. Something quieter. Something more honest. And perhaps that was the real second chance, not getting back the life we had lost, but becoming different people who could finally love each other properly. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like the video, share it, and subscribe to Ripple of Kindness. You never know who might be watching tonight, wondering whether they waited too long to say, "I'm sorry, I love you," or, "Please don't give up on us." And before this story ends, I want to ask you something. Comment, "Second chance," if you believe some love stories deserve another beginning. Because sometimes the person we are most afraid of losing isn't meant to teach us how to hold on tighter. Sometimes they're meant to teach us how to love better. And if you ever find yourself sitting beside someone you love, don't wait for a goodbye to realize their value. Put down your phone. Look into their eyes. Listen to their story. Hold their hand. Because the saddest sentence in the world isn't, "I lost you." It's, "I had you, and I didn't realize how precious you were until you were gone." Emma once asked me if I had ever been afraid of losing her. The answer will always be the same. Always, even now. Because after everything we've been through, I finally understand something I should have understood from the beginning. Real love isn't the absence of fear. Real love is knowing how precious someone is, and choosing them every single day.